This is the beginning of a momentous journey. As future educators, our purpose is to make a difference and take action for our students' learning by incorporating our beliefs. My educational philosophy and pedagogical intent, firstly, consists of every child to be valued and cared for within the classroom. Equality plays a pivotal role in shaping society, and the importance of accepting all students for who they are and where they come from, regardless of their gender, culture, ethnicity, and socio-economic status. One of the reasons we value individuals is not because they're all the same, but because they're all different. Every student is heterogeneous, and it is recognised in their behaviour, learning style, ethnicity, religion, or personal identity. I will strongly encourage my students to consider their preferred learning styles, allowing them to feel comfortable in expressing themselves through their learning. My desire is to teach my students to value their differences and assist them in realising that difference is good.
William Ralph Ing states that the aim of education is the knowledge, not of fact, but of values.
The importance of education, in my perspective, also involves understanding each individual student's form of learning. As a future educator, I will endeavour a broad understanding of my students' learning capabilities, facilitate them in achieving their personal goals, and accepting them within the classroom. Having that connection and interaction with my students vastly impacts on both their life experiences and learning, indicating my intentions of making a difference in their lives and ensuring that every child in my classroom is valued and celebrated. All schools circulate meanings, therefore my intentions subsequently consist of embedding and producing positive meanings throughout my classroom through the guidance of a post-structural framework. Social interaction and identification are also key aspects of ethnic phenomena. It is my obligation to assist students who originate from a particular ethnic background, not only in acceptance of their cultural beliefs, the disclosure of their learning abilities, socio-economic status, and supporting of their lifestyle. Sociocultural theory is an emerging theory in education that looks at the important contributions that society makes to individual development. Sociocultural is a discussion of ways in which our interactions with people teach us about and help shape our ideas, values, and beliefs. Understanding diverse sociocultural backgrounds is one of my key components in accepting the students we are presented with. By eliminating all discriminatory acts, such as covert and overt behaviours, this will encourage all students not to think a certain way and avoid creating judgments that reflect upon gender, cultural background, ethnicity, nationhood, family form, religion, and socio-economic status. The socialisation of gender roles and the use of gender-biased hidden curriculum lead to an inequitable education for boys and girls. It is important that as an educator I am aware of my gender-biased tendencies and promulgate the concept of equality and the acceptance of gender behaviours.
Malcolm Forbes precisely states, "The purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open one."
My aspirations heavily rely on incorporating critical thinking throughout the classroom, rather than acknowledging the acceptance of routine stereotypes, mythical norms, and preconceptions. With the incorporation of critical thinking, students can adapt and think beyond the obvious. Critical thinking enables students to show connections between ideas, identify the relevance and importance of ideas, and most importantly, reflect on the justification of one's own beliefs and values. It is important to acknowledge that critical thinking is also associated with social benefits, as well as enhancing work processes. Through the use of critical thinking, students are capable of challenging preconceptions with the incorporation of transformative texts. With the inclusion of transformative texts and methods within my classroom, I strive for my students to challenge social patterns and promote new ways of thinking. An eloquent quote by Margaret Mead suggests, "Children must be taught how to think, not what to think." It is defined that transformative texts, by contrast, introduce and validate difference as multiple and positive, and also work to make explicit limitations that traditional texts place on all of us. My desires heavily rely on eschewing of traditional texts and welcoming transformative texts, offering my students a new way of thinking by eliminating continuous discriminatory acts. I want my students to think extensively and think beyond the boundaries of dominant stories represented in society. conceive different cultures from different perspectives, and, through transformative text, challenge mythical norms and stereotypes.
Bell Hooks addresses the notion of quality teaching by stating, "To teach in a manner that respects and cares for the souls of our students is essential if we are to provide the necessary conditions where learning can most deeply and intimately begin." This quote elaborates on the benevolent connection held by the student and the teacher, emphasizing the type of relationship I wish to encounter with my students. Acknowledging my students, as well as exhibiting an exchange of respect and consideration, is an essential element in the production of quality teaching. It is a central element of acceptance in understanding my students' learning capacities and the consideration of their life experiences outside of the school environment that can potentially interfere in absorbing a learning process. In conclusion, the implementation of all concepts discussed outlines my objectives as a pre-service teacher by endorsing a sense of equality and acceptance within my classroom, enabling all students to be valued and celebrated, despite their social and cultural background differences, and empowering my beliefs to become a teacher of high quality in securing a better future for my students. Thank you for listening.